The Breakdown.
The Moment You Find Your Flame by Atreyu.
Angels or demons, will you save me? Can you see me falling? Down the devil, can you see me? Can you hear my call?
This is the Southern California Outfit's newest EP, released the 18th of August via Spine Farm Music. The Moment You Find Your Flame consists of 8 tracks and is the follow-up to 2021's Baptize LP. Sam, much like Baptize, this one's not really for me.
Okay, let's before we quite get there, let's give a little bit of background, because funny enough, last week we talked about Dead Icarus, right?
Yes.
Which featured is a new project of the old screamer of this band, Alex, who was sort of let go.
Dismissed. The Moment You Find Your Flame, of course, is the now second project from Atreyu, not featuring that vocalist.
Right, with Brandon sort of like as the full-on frontman as opposed to a co-vocalist,
yes.
Right? Even though I do think one of the other members of Atreyu is the screamer now, but like it's I do sort of feel like the screams are just sort of like window dressing on a lot of this album, where because they're matched up against, I think, one of the most unique voices that we had in metalcore, it's hard to overcome that. So I'm just going to sort of focus on like Brandon and how they've sort of like taken over as the full voice of this band. And I'll say this.
Worse things could have happened.
I'm a little more in tune with it than I was on the last album. The last album felt like sort of a rough first outing, where it had the energy of a very like paint by numbers type album, which maybe worked in the sense of like easing into the new era of Atreyu. This feels like a band who has a little bit more direction, where like there's a little bit more here in terms of like a body of work, as opposed to just like, you know, a smattering of like Sirius XM Octane prepped singles and then like, you know, 6 other songs surrounding them.
Listen,
feels a little bit more well considered.
As far as Brandon goes, I would certainly give them the flowers that they are due. That is a unique voice in metalcore, and I do enjoy listening to it.
It stood out to me, funny enough, the most on that last Ice Nine Kills album, when he featured on the track The Box, I think also with Ryan Kirby as well.
Yeah.
From Fit for a King. And I was just like, man, this fucking, like, this team up just works so well for me, right? Like, it kind of like endeared me a little bit back towards Atreyu. And then we got a couple of singles from this EP, and I was like, yeah, you know, I just don't think they're really doing something that's for me. But can I say this? I don't know if I've gone soft in the last 6 months, but I sort of found myself enjoying something that on paper isn't entirely for me.
So listen, I'm not far off. And I know I led this review off by saying that I feel similarly to this EP than I did Baptize, which I do think is true. But it's not to say that I wasn't miserable listening to this EP. There's still a bit to chew on. I had a good time. I do like Brandon as a vocalist. Ultimately, where I land, though, is this is the type of record. It features songs where, like, if they come up on Sirius, you know, liquid radio, liquid metal,
XM Octane,
I'm not turning the radio off. It's fine. I'll get through the song. It's not going to be my favorite song of the year. But is there ever really going to be an itch for it? There's not. And it's ultimately why I can come into this review telling you I've only heard the songs on here once. Like, I only listened to the EP once.
Had your mind made up after one listen, huh?
Had my mind made up after one listen. Had, fully had my mind around what this record is, what it serves to be. Like, this record doesn't need 14 listens to really get it, like a Holding Absence.
It's catchy radio metal performed by relatively talented veterans of the genre,
sure.
Right? What I think I enjoyed about this is that it sort of filled a void for me, especially coming off of like this last Avenged Sevenfold album, which just feels like it's spitting in the face of what its listeners are asking for.
Listen, if you want me to pay this record a compliment, much better than that Avenged Sevenfold record.
It's just like it's like obviously they're going for two different things, but it's like it's very explicit that like Atreyu is sort of aiming to please, where Avenged Sevenfold was aiming not to give a fuck. And I think this in not you know, the swing there is that Avenged Sevenfold could end up walking away with an album that ends up being like this sort of like gemstone, right? Like it has like all the potential in the world. It swung hard and then sadly completely missed and then snapped its ankle and then fell in the mud and drowned.
Yeah.
But then alternatively, you have something like this, which maybe its aspirations are so much more in check, but because it hits them, it kind of ends up being a pleasing record.
This one's a bit more reserved than I remember Baptized being. Baptized, I remember at least having like some Avenged Sevenfold moments as far as like throwing a little bit more at the wall and seeing what sticks.
Interesting. I really do just remember Baptized feeling like the most Walmart ass brand core that you
I'm
could
not saying there wasn't
possibly
plenty of that.
have.
Yeah.
Like for me, it was an album that like didn't aspire to be anything. It was Chat GPT and a producer who knows his way around like fucking GarageBand putting together what we consider to be a metalcore album in the year that it dropped, right?
Yeah.
Like it was just like all of the boxes checked off. This feels like it has a little bit more personality to it. Like you get like in something like that sort of bluesy ballad, I Don't Want to Die, I feel like I get more personality from this band than I got in the entirety of the last album. Like I feel like I have a band who sat down and said, this is a type of song we want to write and not just a chorus and a riff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I won't disagree that there's maybe a little bit more certainty and identity, because Baptized itself was the first time in Atreyu's career that they didn't have all of the classic pieces of Atreyu, right?
Mm-hmm. Though to be fair, for what it's worth, I think when this band came back and had all those pieces, it was not working the same way that it used to, unfortunately.
Almost 10 years ago, which is what's crazy to me, because if you asked me when Long Live came out, I wouldn't have told you 2015. I would have told you like 2018, 2019.
Right.
It does not feel like this band has been back for nearly a decade.
The truth is, for me, Long Live landed with a thud, and the album that came after that did not capture the magic either.
Until I Wake or some shit like that. In Our Wake.
That sounds so correct.
Also sucked. I fucking hate this band for the most part.
It's just like everything since The Return.
Yeah.
Prior to that, I think this band it was like all stars, like just absolute fucking force within the scene. Incredible, like one of the greatest success stories.
That's why everyone was
like
happy
paper.
they came back.
What was it? Paper sales, paper anchor, lead sales, paper anchor.
Yeah.
I think is an absolute triumph, right? Of just like taking a metalcore band.
Not a lot of people would agree with you, at least core fan base.
I think the transition to go from like underground to like signing to a slightly more popular label, like putting out something with like radio potential. I think Atreyu did it a lot more gracefully than a lot of other bands have, right?
I'll give you that.
And then the irony is that when they tried to do it again, coming off of Long Live, it just sort of felt like one flop after another.
Real hollow.
But I can pull a couple songs on here like Gone or God/Devil that I think are good examples of Atreyu playing to their crowd and sort of like reliving a little bit of what made them such a catchy, cool metalcore band to begin with. And you know, unfortunately, like the Alex piece is always going to be missing, but they do capture a little bit of the magic here.
Yeah.
It's not 100%. Like, don't get me fucking wrong, y'all. This has got its flaws.
We
and
got some Who Let Them Cook moments on here, and a lot of them are almost strictly lyrical. Drowning. I'm drowning, caught in the undertow. That's the fucking chorus. Capital F, guess what the chorus is? Is it just me, or are we all capital F fucked? Brandon is 40, by the way, just for anyone who needs that to reference.
Right.
Just miserable lyrically.
I expect more, right? Like, obviously, in the year 2023, undertow cannot be utilized in a song in a
non-joking
way that's
manner.
right. That's
Yeah.
gonna feel fresh at any capacity.
Yes.
And Are We All Capital F Fuck just feels like, you know, the kind of song that would satisfy the most
smooth-brained of the Sirius XM crowd.
simple-minded rock fans imaginable, right? Like what is the easiest possible sentence to sing along to and get across an emotion? But it's
I guess I'll give you this, Sam. You have sort of opened my eyes to maybe there's a little bit more to chew on here than I personally thought.
It's like meet them halfway.
I'll meet them halfway.
Like don't come into this record expecting something that it's not going to be. This is a radio rock album. It's lyrical content, not really. It's mostly inoffensive, but it's abrasively bland, and the contrast between the screaming and clean vocals that brought me so much joy over a decade ago just simply does not exist in the same way here. Like, they have not replaced it with an element that is equally compelling, but there are splashes of catchy radio metalcore throughout this album that I think a band of veterans within this scene should be able to and do accomplish on this record.
Yeah.
I settle it like a 2.5. I don't think that this record has enough bad moments to make it bad, nor enough great moments to make it great. But it was a pleasant enough listening experience with a feel like 30% songs that I could see myself listening to again this year, which makes it leagues better than the last 2, maybe 3 albums we've gotten from this band.
If Baptized was a 1, I think for me this is a 1.5. And I think heading into this, I was dead set on like a 0.5, and I think that extra 1 it gained was just because of some of what you said during your review.
I'm glad I could talk you up a little bit.
You talked me up just a tad.
I think this EP earned Atreyu a little bit more than they've got. You know, the irony is, if you're giving this a 1.5, I think it's fair to say that those last few records are probably, you know, that 0.5 that you almost landed on.
Yeah, Baptized is like a near 0, I think. So
yeah. So
I guess I liked the Wake album a little bit more. I don't know.
It's like, it's just nice.
Atreyu's still around.
Yeah, it's kind of nice to like some Atreyu in the year 2023. Taking Back Sunday played a backyard show in Long Island, New York. It was a 6-song set, which was filmed for an upcoming music video, presumably the sequel to the one, which sort of like ended with the band driving to a gig. And if you see some of the footage that was sort of like cell phone recorded by people of this performance, they're dressed the exact same way, right?
Were they? I didn't catch it.
Yeah, the continuity is here. They're wearing like slacks and tucked in shirts. It's so fucking funny to me that every single band, every single guy in this scene who's at like age 38 or older started dressing like an H&M catalog overnight, and they all look identical now. It's like, look at any promo shot of any band who's been in this scene for 15 years, and they're all like hands in like a coat jacket, tucked in slack, belt, you know what I mean?
Listen, they move in herds,
they clean
right?
the fuck up.
If one of them's wearing a V-neck, I'm wearing a V-neck too, and so are our 10 friends. If one of us are wearing slacks, we're all wearing slacks. You gotta love how committed all these dudes are with each other.
The truth is like, it's like, thank Christ, because I don't think there's anything worse than like the
how
like,
Atreyu dresses right now.
Well, respectfully, like, yes, the bands who sort of like stumbled into the Affliction era of their like metal scene, where it's like holding on but in a divorced dad kind of way. Like, at least these guys are like, all right, we're just gonna
look put
dress
together.
our like, just get some fucking, you know, nice shoes, and it is
Minimal.
what it is. This band, they played it I think they played like the night after they had just gotten done headlining 4 Chord Music Fest, and just a few days after they finished up headlining the Sad Summer Fest. So after they were done playing to the biggest crowds they could, they were like, we got to reel it in and go back to like where we started and like, you know, play some Long Island backyard shows, which
They
is
looked crowded. They looked packed.
Specifically where this band started, right?
Yes. Listen, I think Taking Back Sunday took back summer this year. It's the
Okay.
Summer of
Okay.
Taking Back Sunday. We're headlining Sad Summer. We're playing in backyards again. I think that it's a very wholesome summer for Taking Back Sunday.
Do you think this band approaches every situation with their namesake? Like, they pull into like a gas station and they're like, we're taking back fuel today, y'all. Pull into a Starbucks, like, let's take back these Frappuccinos.
January 6th, we're taking back America.
All right. All right.
Those are not my thoughts.
Hard to
by the way.
transition off of that one. All right. The bigger question here is who needs to be playing backyard shows so we can continue to capture this energy within the scene? Who's fit for a backyard show?
I need Knocked Loose to play the backyard show.
They just feel so easy, right? Like
Feels so
hardcore
easy.
in general, like it plays so
Of
well to like a
course.
small crowded space to begin with.
That said, Bring Me the Horizon backyard show. I want to see some
What's a
intimate
British
sets.
backyard? Like, what the fuck is a British backyard? Do they have those there?
It's just a patio, right? That's
But, like,
it.
yeah, I would just imagine it's
20 by
like
20.
a small table where you have tea at.
It's a garden.
And like a couple like
Yeah.
I don't like I think a British backyard would be Bring Me the Horizon, and there's no room for any fans to enjoy the show. You know what I mean? I just don't think backyards are a concept that they have in the UK. Like, that's a strictly American
And
thing.
they can't do the front yard. Front yards don't look that cool.
No, this is an American bands only type beat. So who do we got? Who do we got?
I think you could do a backyard show down under Amity Affliction style.
Actually, I think that would work as well. I just picture some real white trash. Like, it's a backyard that almost just feels like an open field with like one of those like destroyed by the weather ass couches. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Just real wasteland type beat, almost
down
desert in
RV,
in
yeah.
a sense. Yeah.
What are some other bands that could do this though? I don't know. For me, it's all of like the emo legends. Like Taking Back Sunday are doing this. All right, cool. My Chemical Romance need that. Paramore need that. The Used need that.
Do you see bands actually jumping on this trend, or do you think this is going to be a flash in the pan? Because a lot of people mentioned the fact that there was almost more traction to Taking Back Sunday's name with this one 6-song set in a backyard than the entirety of the Sad Summer Festival?
Yes, sir. I don't know who needs this as much as Taking Back Sunday did is the problem.
I mean, I feel like there are some, but like, hey, could Plain White Tees reinvigorate the excitement for their project with a little backyard acoustic show?
Sure. They might
I don't
be able
know.
to.
I don't know, you know? But it's possible, right? I'd like to see, what about like a 21 Pilots? Could you see them just like, because it's like they're at such a level where the idea of them playing an intimate show just seems like incomprehensible, right?
Well, they used to have like some DIY aspect to them, or at least like an image. I remember like one of the first 21 Pilots videos being like, it might have been at least Tyler in like that skeleton spirit Halloween, the full black like setup.
That's exactly what Taking Back Sunday did, though. You know, they've gone back so far to their roots that it feels novel.
I guess so, but I think that like with Taking Back Sunday, had it been someone else, that would be the first band I would say needed something like this. So it makes sense that they
Interesting.
did it. I think they were one of the few bands that like they need to fucking get back any cred they once had.
What's crazy, though, is that I found out the landlord actually took a merch cut of this show, which
Oh,
you'd think they
God.
might have been able to skirt it this one time, right?
Don't even get me started on the homeowners association.
Do you think somebody taped the no moshing sign to like the second story window just so people would be like aware? Like, how do you prep for a
Do you
backyard
think they
show?
trashed that backyard?
Absolutely fucking destroyed beyond reason, bro. You're not growing grass in that backyard the rest of your life, bro. People two-stepping all over those fucking hydrangeas. It's fucking done, bro. That yard is finished. They're just gonna take the whole fucking house down.
Demolish it.
Era have returned with their new single, Pale Iris.